Hello and welcome to the Resistance podcast. I today am joined by the band Whom by Fire. Whom by Fire, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'm Eliza.
I'm Dan.
I'm not in the band.
You are their, what would you describe yourself as? Their roadie? Do you have a name?
Winter is my name.
Winter's also a musician.
Yeah.
So she just sort of hangs around you guys and...
So Winter sometimes performs at the same gigs that we do.
Yeah.
And Winter's quite interested in being involved in Wrong Think Records, which Eliza and I are running. So.
And she happens to be a wife as well. You know, just a small
trophy wife.
Small thing, you know.
Trophy wife.
So do you want to talk a little bit about your music and where you come from? You come from Southend?
Yeah. Southend-on-Sea. Yeah.
How long have you guys been going?
So we've been going for...
Scary to think about it, actually. Probably 25 years.
Something like that, yeah. Since we were kids, basically.
Yeah, met in a church band, which is pretty cute.
Yeah.
And then we sort of had lots of different setups. We were kind of quite rocky to start with, weren't we? And then had lots of different people join us. Your brothers joined us for a while, which was hilarious. And then it went down to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now you are facing a bit of resistance with your music because you've been going for 25 years. You've obviously had, a bit of success. You've been quite popular. You developed a bit of a crowd in Southend and in London. You've been gigging. Yeah. I know you've been working with the Blockheads. But you've got in trouble, haven't you?
Yeah, we did get in trouble.
What did you do that was naughty?
Well, I spoke out against an event that was being promoted by Southend Pride, and it was a book reading called, and the book was called Towards a Gay Communism. Yeah, I know. And the author was somebody that endorsed paedophilia and various other things that Pride seemed to...
Basically, the book reading was aimed towards... But it was welcoming under 18s.
Yeah.
Under 16s, wasn't it? Or was it under 18s?
It wasn't an over 18s event.
And if you read the book for 2 seconds,
you don't need to read
it's
much.
really, really adult. It's actually beyond adult. It's the kind of thing that you wish you'd never read. It's absolutely revolting. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm afraid to ask, but can you actually give us some details of what's in this book so people can understand the scale of what's being presented to children?
So he uses kind of Freudian language to justify his theories about how basically everyone's really uptight because they weren't allowed to shag their parents when they were kids. And and how everyone's so uptight because it's a taboo that you can't eat shit when you're having sex. It's not a taboo, it's just wrong. It's just disgusting.
And this was in the book?
It takes you seconds.
Yeah, I think like a direct quote was paedophilia, necrophilia, I think bestiality
animals,
possibly as well, are ripe for redemption.
And poop eating as well.
Yeah. Eating.
In a sexual way. Somehow that, I don't see
how
how those two things go together.
Yeah.
But, okay.
Yeah, very sexual.
And so was this, I know they've invited under 16s, is this sort of marketed and presented as if it's a children's book to try and get it at kids?
No, I don't think so.
No, it was like a proud queer theory type thing. It's like this guy invented queer theory, basically. It was like a celebration of this person and his psychotic views.
Yeah. I mean, one of the other things that we spoke out against was they do this thing called Drag Queen Story Time. And they hosted an event in a local church which puts on live music and that sort of thing. But they had a drag queen perform for the children, I think it was last year. And we saw some photos afterwards and it was really up. Like it was like proper, like skimpy.
It was an adult cabaret show, but there were toddlers
like
in
right
the front row sitting on the floor, basically
in a church
crotch
as well.
level with this, adult dressed in
and then
suggestive clothing.
And then we've put on events at that church, and then we got barred from using that church.
They got banned from Pride found out they had a gig. Completely independent of anyone else. They were putting the gig on themselves. Pride found out about it and threatened the church and said, if you let this band play, right, we're not having any more Pride events at this church. So basically they were terrified of angering the community.
I'm sorry, just the threat of, if you don't comply with our agenda, we're not going to have any more Pride events at this church. Can I ask, which denomination is this church?
It's the Church of England, but it's a very liberal Church of England.
They would deem themselves liberal, but they weren't. They call themselves an inclusive church, but
obviously they're anything but that, aren't they?
Only if you agree with them on everything.
Yeah.
They're so inclusive that they excluded you guys for having an opinion. So, do you perform at any other churches?
Yeah.
Or, because you had a relationship with this church before, and you performed there a few times, haven't you?
Yeah. Thankfully, there's plenty of churches in our local area, and the one that I grew up going to is another Church of England church, St Andrews, and we were able to go there. They invited us, I think we had a week's notice from being cancelled at St Mark's.
Yeah.
And we were like, to switch venues. And St Andrews were like, yeah, of course, come and play in our church. And we were like, beautiful, thank you so much. And that's where we did our album launch as well, Just Gone. It is a gorgeous church. Yeah,
it's much better than St Mark's.
But, I guess clearly. So. I mean, but St Mark's, what did they actually say to you? Did they say, we've got to, we need to have these, homosexuals in our church?
Yeah, they said we need to protect them, basically. We need to protect those people from you guys, basically. That's all.
Yeah.
The gist of it, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think they said
they need protection.
They wouldn't feel, they then wouldn't feel safe in that. It's like a safe space for the
quite fascinating.
rainbow people, really, and they wouldn't feel safe if we performed there. But the weird thing is, we've got quite a large gay and trans following, actually. So
your manager's a transvestite.
We haven't got a manager.
We haven't got a manager.
Promoter.
We've got a close friend who has promoted gigs. A gig that we did.
Was this Nate?
Nate. Nate's trans. But they've come after Nate's gigs as well in the name.
Yeah, they threatened Nate.
Yeah.
They threatened Nate's gig, and he was just like, off,
basically. And you can't talk to these people either. You can't have a conversation with them. They refuse to actually sit down and just
discuss anything.
Have a talk about it all. They won't. They're zero communication.
Yeah, we did offer to sit down and talk to Pride.
We welcomed it. We were like, come on, let's have that opportunity. That would be amazing to sit down and chat.
You said the same thing when they cancelled you from Lee Folk Festival as well.
Yeah.
You said, okay, you're accusing us of posting things online, but you're not being specific.
No.
Can we get together so that we can actually, because in your facts, you are responsible for actually deciphering what you're cancelling someone for. Yeah. It was actually against their regulations, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What they did. But they still didn't talk to you guys.
No.
So you got cancelled from the Lee Festival. You got cancelled from church.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm quaking in my boots sitting here looking at you.
Scary stuff.
When was it that you first started seeing this? Because a lot of people first started seeing all of this around 2016. What made you guys first get concerned and get a little bit political? Were you always political?
So I think we all came from pretty left-wing backgrounds.
Yeah.
And when the whole what's it they call it, the People's Pantomime happened, I think Winter and I particularly both started speaking out about that, and we got a lot of backlash. But But then when the whole sort of rainbow cult sort of exploded, and we said something about that. I think just, you know, like not sexualizing children, you know, controversial stuff like that.
Cool.
That's when it really kicked off. Like, and you get like the people that like the backlash you get is like so hateful as well. It's like almost like comical how hateful it is. I mean, and you can't take it seriously because these people are insane. So.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely struggled with that.
Yeah,
I've definitely struggled with the hate, like kind of looking at comments through like as if I'm watching a horror film, because the idea of someone hating me or not liking me, obviously it's not a nice feeling. I don't like that, and so I have struggled this past year with that. I know, Dan is like water off a duck's back. It doesn't faze you when you're called all these things.
I think it probably did
it is
first.
it is a hard thing to deal with, definitely, especially when you haven't done anything like.
I think the thing is though, like some of it's so unhinged that you just can't take it seriously.
Yeah.
It's like when you're like literally being compared to Hitler.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
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 Yeah, for saying that a grown adult shouldn't grind their crotch in a toddler's face.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, how's your painting?
Not very good actually. So
Well, I mean,
maybe
Hitler
that's
was
something
kind of
we've got in
mediocre. You know, do you like dogs?
Not
You're more of a
particularly.
cat.
I'm more of a cat person.
Oh, okay. Well, it just doesn't match up.
There you go. We're safe.
So you guys have been cancelled, but do you think that your music has got more political in response to everything that's been going on?
Our music hasn't really been political. Like we've
got one song.
We've written like
one or two, haven't you?
a vaguely
freedom.
like anti-war song, a pro-freedom song, which I don't know. Is that
It
political?
mentions the medication.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, we've done.
Yeah.
We have done one slightly
It's
political
slightly
song,
a bit more
which
obvious,
was
I guess. Yeah.
yeah, about like bodily autonomy, that
Being
sort of
locked
thing.
in and stuff.
Being locked in,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that's it.
But-
Are you talking about Freedom Song?
No. Well, the one about freedom was the freedom song, but no, we've got another song which we haven't actually recorded, which we probably will do at some point.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
Well, let's have a little listen to Freedom Song, and then after that, let's talk a little bit about your opposition to the lockdowns. So let's have a listen.
I heard you sing of freedom and it moved me like chains that cannot bind you, like flames that can't consume you. I most surely will storm the cage that is your house, burn it to the ground. With love divine, I surely will lead you to the ground.
So how was it going through the lockdowns, and when did you first wake up to everything that was going on during the lockdowns?
Yeah, so for me, I think when they announced the lockdown, I think my thoughts were, I'm going to sort of, did they say it was like for 2 or 3 weeks?
Yeah,
I
to
was like,
flatten the curve.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was like, I'll take it like vaguely seriously for 2 or 3 weeks in that I'm still going to go out whenever I like, but...
He knew it was coming. He knew it was coming. I didn't want to believe it.
I'm not going to sort of like go out of my way to deliberately break the rules. But
What do you mean Dan knew it was coming?
He knew there was going to be a lockdown.
Yeah, it was a bit weird.
I'd heard
You
a few
did
things
predict
at my
a lot of
work.
stuff.
A couple of clients saying that they had friends in the army and the police and stuff, and they were saying, yeah, it's definitely going to happen.
How did
And
you
I
know,
just
Dan?
didn't believe it until the day. that Boris made his announcement. But you knew.
Yeah, I knew something was coming.
Yeah, you were
I just had a feeling, really.
Straight away, you were like, it's not
He was like,
not going to be 2
locking
weeks.
down.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely not 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, wasn't it 1 week? And then we invited one person round because we got, it was just like, this is bull.
Yeah.
And then another friend of ours, a week after that, was saying, I'm really suffering. And we were like, come around, you know, because they were going mental. We were renting a room at the time, and there were police like driving past the window all the time. And it was just outrageous. But we just couldn't, you know, we were going nuts. We were going crazy. We had like multiple mental breakdowns during that lockdown. It was insane.
So when was it that you actually started going out and just fully resisting? Because you said you were still going out at bits and pieces, but you were having your mental breakdowns.
Sneaky.
Yeah. I think we were going out right from the start, but I think when they brought the mask thing in, like obviously didn't do that. So, you know, I guess we had more of an opportunity to visibly break the rules.
We found out a few friends what they were really like during that time as well, for good and bad.
Yeah. I think like we had, I certainly had certain suspicions about some people that we knew, and a lot of people really showed their true colours in that period, and very authoritarian.
We were very much researching it, weren't we, and looking at statistics and sharing things like, this doesn't make sense. You know, the death rate doesn't justify this lockdown. It doesn't make any sense. And then I was looking at statistics of people being locked down and and the suicide rate, and you know, and I was like posting as much as I could, just saying, come on people, this is crazy, this is so dangerous, you know, people are going to die just from being locked down. And it was terrifying. And I actually knew someone who it wasn't explicitly said, but I think he took his own life during that time. It wasn't said on his family post, but it was kind of implied almost. And it was like horrifying, because I knew that was happening in droves. And we both did. And I think that was why we suffered so much, because we were so acutely aware of the damage it was going to do to everybody. But you had a completely different experience.
Completely
and it kind of, you woke up a bit later, didn't you?
Oh, completely. Yeah. I felt a real positivity from it. I found it a really good opportunity to do things that I wouldn't normally have done. I really enjoyed the peace and the calm and the not going out. And I mean, I didn't stay locked down at all. I was out and about. I didn't wear the masks or any of that. I didn't have the jabs, any of that. But I didn't completely know what was really going on. Like
sort of larger ramifications of it.
The larger ramifications of it. I actually just was enjoying the time. Really. It was very different for me.
And then eventually you woke up and you saw the bigger picture. So did you guys lose any fans over speaking out about it? And how was it? Because I know you said you've lost friends, and I almost think that it's sometimes like a purge.
Yeah.
You just get rid of all of the toxins in your environment, because you've got these people who are just in their little normie bubble, and you're like, thank you for marking yourselves out. I now can get rid of you.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, you've got like half a dozen key friends. You go, okay, those are my people.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Winter and I quite often discuss this, and I do see it as more of a privilege, because I mean, you know, if I go to a bar and those people there, it's like I don't have to talk to them anymore, and normally they were the people that sort of disowned us and shun us now. Normally in most cases I thought they were quite fake people anyway, so I didn't really particularly enjoy speaking to them anyway.
I found it incredibly painful. I still do. It was like a whole community is now just gone, and it's like I have to transform my perceptions of what that community actually means now to like maybe try to aim my focus at a new community that actually understands what good and evil is, you know. Whereas it was like a purge, but it's very painful because I had a lot of love for every single one of those people, only to find out that they're completely manipulated and, you know, brainwashed, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the whole COVID stuff, I don't really feel like, you know, we got into a lot of heated arguments with people about it. I don't remember losing many friends over it, but with the tranny stuff, that's when people like really decided to disown us.
What tranny stuff?
Well, like speaking out about the sort of trans debate and the sexualisation of children, that sort of thing. That's when people really lost their shit, I think.
Well, how's all of this putting together both all of the, you know, alphabet, rainbow agenda and the lockdowns? How's this been for your business? Because this is your profession. How's it been working within the music industry?
There's like a lot of places that we can't play. There's a lot of people that used to come to our gigs that won't come to our gigs now. On the flip side of that, we've had a lot of new opportunities.
Definitely.
And and we've got a whole new fan base now, which has been really amazing, actually.
Yeah.
So it's brought your music to a whole new group of people. you
Yeah,
haven't heard
yeah.
before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
And you're thinking of spicing it up a little bit?
What do you reckon?
Well, maybe a bit of cross-dressing.
Why not?
Yeah.
Well, you guys have started your own record label, Wrong Think Records, so I presume that talks about what you're doing.
Well, initially, we just wanted to release our own album, which we've just put out an album, so we did it on our own label, and then we thought it'd be really good to like open the label up to other musicians, because, I mean, we know that there's other musicians who are in the same boat as us, who have been treated, you know, some of them have been treated far worse than we have.
Absolutely.
I mean, we haven't been treated like that badly compared to some people that we know, and so we want to like open the label up to be a support network for other musicians who believe in freedom of speech. And so we're going to be doing that. So
hopefully get a little I never say this right, compilation
we
album. And like we've already had quite a lot of interest from musicians around the country, which has been really cool. Just sending their tracks and everything for us to consider to put onto the album. So yeah.
How many different musicians have you got?
Oh, we've got a mailing list now, so don't know how many we've had in, but it was quite a nice amount so far.
Yeah, we did an interview, I think, last month, and we got like a dozen submissions like in a week, and we're getting more submissions.
And obviously local people as well have been interested, and we know quite a few local musicians, obviously Winter obviously will be featured. So it should be a good thing, and then we'll hopefully do like a really cool launch for that as well in London, maybe later on in the year, and invite the musicians that are on the album to come down and do a track and get a little community back. Winter was saying about the whole community thing. It's one of our most loved pubs closed down over lockdown, and that was a real hub for musicians. And since then it's felt a bit lost and a bit lonely. So I think getting back out there and having the support from people that are like-minded has been such a good thing. I think to get that community back up and running.
I mean, the other thing is, I mean, we've obviously all got our opinions about certain things, and this label, it's not just for people that think exactly the same as us. But
how boring would that be?
Yeah, but you do need to believe in freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Primarily.
Yeah, that would help.
Yeah.
And do we need a network of venues? Because I know in the States they've got a rather successful app called Public Square. And what people do over there is they add their businesses if they're pro-freedom.
Okay.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's a network of freedom businesses all across the
Yeah.
United States. So you can go from coffee shop to, tobacconist to corner shop to
Oh, amazing.
burger joint.
Fantastic.
Do you think we need something like that where we've got more venues? Because at the moment, we do have these sort of odds and sods here and there, but they're not linked up and there's not as much awareness about where they are.
That's such a cool idea.
I think that would be really good,
Love that.
actually.
100%.
Yeah.
Do you think the issue is with the venues, though? Do you think it's that we need to get more freedom venues, or is it...
I think we need...
fears.
Yeah, I think we need more artists who are not going to give in to the intimidation that they're facing, because there's not. I mean, there are people out there, but most of the submissions we've had are people that that they record music, but they don't really gig anymore. And I think that's because they don't feel comfortable. They don't feel safe to gig, really. And to be honest, they're not really safe. To be honest, I mean,
you've got the pride target on your back.
Yeah,
It's not good.
Yeah, I mean, we've been physically threatened and stuff. So
The thing is, it's all talk. And these guys, when they do their gigs, I've heard from specific people saying that they were so scared to come because they thought there'd be all these protesters outside and that it'd be all of and loads of the attendees will be these transphobic lunatics kind of thing that they've got in their head, like anti-vaxxer mad people. Do you know what I mean? And then they turn up and it's this really beautiful, sophisticated, classy event, and they're just shocked. And it's like,
I mean,
it's just everyone's got this crazy projected view full of fear now, and I think it did stem from lockdown, definitely, because it separated everyone. No one could communicate properly, and everyone's jumping to conclusions now.
I mean, going back to the sort of trans thing, I mean, obviously everyone's got opinions on that, but I mean, me personally, it's like, if an adult wants to be trans, I don't give a shit. Do what you want with another consenting adult, but just leave the kids alone. So
I think going back to what you were saying about the places of freedom, being pointed out in this app and everything, I think that is a really cool idea. My only thing with that, I guess, would be that it feels like it could, if it goes too far, there'd be that whole divide. And for me, I feel like that is part of the problem, having a divide between the people that are freedom fighters and the people that aren't. It's like, how incredible would it be if you just went to a really cool music venue that didn't have any labels and that you were just there to enjoy the music, no matter what your belief system
That's
or
how it was before.
spirituality, anything.
It's not like that anymore. We're in a new normal now.
Yeah, that's just, I know.
I've got to agree
this
with Winter.
ideology.
I mean, it's not asking for a safe space. It's just asking for a space in which you can actually, perform without all of this prejudice, without people attacking you. And they're closing off their spaces.
Yeah.
So what are you meant to do? Like
They're banning you.
Yeah.
Have you seen half of the stuff that goes on in the schools? I mean, I used to be in education.
Oh, mate.
So I still am in education. I'm
disgusting.
a private tutor, but I tutor kids now who are homeschooled. I used to work in the state schools. There was this one time that I was working with a kid who was about 7, and they said, okay, so he will run out of the class about 3 to 4 times a day. I went, what? They said, oh, and don't tell him no.
All right.
So he's got a couple of special educational needs. And they said, don't tell him no, and if he runs out, just follow him around. So I was doing that, and he decides that he's going to try climbing up this trellis work next to these bike sheds, right? And these bike sheds are about 7-8 foot off the ground. Below is all concrete slabs, and this kid's about 7, right? So he starts climbing. He gets to about my chest height. I just go, nope.
Yeah.
And pop him down. I then get called into the headmistress's office, and then she then gives me a saying how they've got a no touch policy at the school. And I then tell her, oh, well, you've got a dead child policy at the school.
Yeah.
And Yeah, so I got sacked.
Potentially saving a child's life.
Yeah, I got sacked.
Context doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah, Laura, who co-editor-in-chief, did all the editing for our videos during the lockdown. She went into one school and they were teaching an inspector calls, and they went, so socialism is good and capitalism is where people are greedy and that's where they're bad. And there was this one time when they talked about she went into this place and she said, okay, so what books are you teaching? Okay, well, what it's like to be a black girl growing up in London, because it's so difficult being a black girl growing up in London. What it's like to be a Muslim girl growing up in Birmingham. Those Mallory Blackman books, which are just that sort of race fantasy where all the black people are oppressing the white people, right? The sort of noughts and crosses, sort of Nazi fantasy. And she said, well, Shakespeare, you must have Shakespeare, please. And they go, oh yeah, we're doing King Lear. It's like, okay, what themes are you teaching?
Okay.
And this is the head of English. She turns around and goes, toxic masculinity.
Oh, Lord. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Rather than actually analyse Shakespeare, for example, Romeo and Juliet, what they're focused on is how Lord Capulet is the evil patriarchal figure because patriarchy is inherently evil and therefore he is the epitome of evil. And they teach, women were completely and utterly oppressed. Don't mention that, women didn't have the same responsibilities as men. Women didn't get sent off to, fight and die in wars. Like when I tutor kids in history, I say, okay, well, in fact, we've just been looking at the suffragettes, and we've just been looking at how the suffragettes were going round and essentially bullying young men to go off and die in a war for them to vote. They said, yeah, you go fight, you go defeat the enemy. By the way, I want to be able to vote and I'm not going to go to war. Yeah. What's your opinion on that? Do you think that women should get to vote if they don't go to war?
Ooh, God.
Well, they're still sort of victims to the governmental rule, aren't they? So, and they're adults with adult brains, so I think they should get the right to vote. I don't think men should have to go to war. I think wars are redundant.
So you would abolish conscription then?
Oh, yeah.
Cool. So no one can be conscripted?
No.
But
Oh, yeah, no.
And then everyone gets to vote. But doesn't that make the idea of voting a little bit worthless if it's just given to you for free? I mean, if someone just hands you a CD for free on the street, you get people out promoting their music. Do you know anyone who actually listens to that CD? Where someone actually comes up, persuades you to buy a CD for $5, you probably give it a listen.
I think there is...
You put your money in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I mean, I don't personally vote, but I think there is a certain argument that unless you're actually contributing, then why should you actually get to decide on the government?
Like your decisions
Shouldn't
make
you
a difference anyway.
Yeah, but shouldn't you just spoil your vote? Shouldn't that... If you're not going to vote, why don't you just spoil it? So it shows.
Why
It's a
should I
circus
spoil it?
So it
anyway.
shows that you're not voting.
Not voting shows that I'm not voting.
Yeah. Doesn't
Do you
matter,
think
does it?
voting
It does.
makes any difference whatsoever?
Wait a second, whose podcast is this? Look at this, they're turning the tables. Right, what I will say is I don't believe in voting for an option that will make the country worse than it is now. So my rule with voting is I have to believe, even if I disagree with some of your policies, I have to believe that you will bring the country to be in a better place.
Yeah.
So, for example, Piers Corbyn, right?
Yeah.
I've voted for Piers before. because I believe that he would make the country a better place. He would have more open discussion, free speech. He would guarantee people's freedom of association. He would be looking at people's right to bear arms. He would be locking up a lot of the people who've committed these crimes. He would be stopping the police from being committing all the crimes that they're committing. But then he wants to, go around, get all the empty buildings in London and stick a load of homeless people in them, which I've challenged him on this. And I don't personally think that would work, because I think a lot of the reason that certain people are homeless, and this isn't to say the people who are sleeping on their mate's sofa, those people tend to be people who've hit an unlucky time.
Yeah.
They've got mates because they can actually maintain relationships, and then they're going to get back out of that. It tends to be a lot of people with serious mental health issues or drug issues. When a lot of them, and obviously this isn't all, when they're given support, they will reject that support and they will destroy the environment that they're in. So I don't see that as being particularly effective as a strategy. I don't think that's really going to help too much. Just give the person housing. Well, if they don't have to earn it, then they've got not necessarily got an appreciation of it. And that's what I think with voting as well. We were talking about voting. I don't think that handing out free stuff is necessarily a good idea. I believe that I don't believe it's charity if it comes from government. I think charity needs to come from the individual. So I think just abolish the welfare state entirely, and what you'll get is, firstly, you'll have a lot more money in each of your wallets, which enables you to be a lot more charitable. And rather than someone feeling entitled, so, okay, I've hit hard times, I need my car for work, my car is broken down, I've literally got no money, but otherwise I'm going to lose my job if I can't get in. Okay, what do you think is going to really change someone's behaviour and make them, make them take care of their car more? Is it going to be their mate lending them that money and having to look their mate in the eye and say, look, I'm going to look after this guy, I'm not going to speed over all the speed bumps? Or is it going to be, I'm entitled to this money from the government, I'm entitled to a handout from the government? I think rather than having this entitlement culture, I think you should have to look the person in the eye. I don't see what's wrong with asking. I don't see what's wrong with, if you're in a difficult situation, why is it you can't ask the people around you? And I think there would be way, way more charities. If you look at the Victorians, the Victorians were extremely charitable. They're going after all of these statues, and all of these statues all around the country are just, most of them are philanthropists, because they believed in giving back to the people. So I just abolish welfare, and and that's where I disagree with Piers. That's where I disagree with him. But do I think he would definitely be better than where we are now? Yes. David Curtin, for example. He's on the Christian wave. I'm not a Christian. He calls himself a conservative. His conservatism is more sort of 1950s. He sort of wants to roll things back to 1950s. Like, 1950s is a bit of an improvement, but can we just sort of roll back a bit further? Let's be a bit more traditional, go back to sort of, the systems that we had in place, the rights that we had in the Victorian era in some ways. I
think my problem with that, your argument, is that, I do agree with certain parts of it, but I've got friends who, I know Tony Blair is very different to David Curtin, but when Tony Blair came in, he was promising like lots of nice things, and people voted for him, and then obviously like the Iraq War happened, and then those people, they feel, well, they are complicit in the Iraq War, so I don't think I could vote for somebody unless we had proper direct democracy, like possibly similar to what they have in, I think it's Switzerland, when they have like regular referendums on a lot of the big issues. And I think if we had something like that, I would definitely consider voting. But I just feel like you're just giving somebody a blank check to do what they like. And
Well, what do you think of having more regular elections? Because one thing that the Chartists wanted, so the Chartists were the great reformers of the Victorian era, and they wanted universal male suffrage. They wanted to abolish the property qualifications to vote. They wanted actually to have I think they wanted a wage for the MPs so that working class people could actually become MPs because they didn't have to be independently wealthy, which is funny because today we try and get rid of that sort of thing. Yeah. What would you go for? Would you be interested in yearly, more regular general elections or every 2 years? Or would that make everything a bit too short term?
I think it'd be amazing to have it more regularly. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, if there's no improvements, out, next one in. See what they can do. Although these things obviously take a lot of time to develop. Once you're in power and government, then there's going to be a lot of...
I think I would actually probably rather have a dictator that you voted for.
Oh okay. You're just gonna...
every year.
A dictator?
Yeah.
Really? You would rather have a dictator?
A Führer, you might say. Are you... Are you thinking of anyone in particular, Dan?
Well...
Yeah, what are you saying? What do you mean you'd rather have a dictator? What is that? Yeah,
tell us, mine her.
Yeah.
Well,
What's
I think
like?
I think most of the parties, okay, so let's maybe talk about Jeremy Corbyn. Like he said a lot of good things, I think, when he sort of started coming into power. And then it was like, I think when he got in, it was like he sort of bowed down to the pressure, the woke pressure around him. And he was, by the end of his reign as Labour leader, he seemed like quite a different person to the one that started.
Do you know why that is? Because Jeremy...
Because the wrong Corbyn got in?
Yeah, it literally is. So everything that Jeremy was meant to be back during that, what was it, the sort of 25th... Was it the 20... No. It was the 2017 mania over Corbyn, wasn't it? And was he there in 2015? I can't remember.
God, no, I don't know.
But all of the mania around Corbyn, Jeremy, it's all bluster. It's literally, he's this anti-establishment guy. Oh, yes, he's been against the European Union for 30 years. And he turns around like, yeah, we should vote to remain. I'm like, oh, come on, man. Come on. Look, exactly. I completely oppose socialism, but I thought the one good thing was that he could maybe stick to that principle of, right, well, we want socialism for Britain, so we're going to get out of the EU and then we'll just focus on this country. And I'm like, well, I don't want socialism, but yeah, get us out of the EU and we can have a debate here without involving some other people over there in a foreign country controlling this country, which is fundamentally treason as far as I'm concerned. And he completely sold out on it. Like, that's how he got to be an MP. You look at someone like Piers and, Piers is completely broke, living in poverty, surviving as some sort of astrophysicist, weatherman campaigner, racking up 60 grand in ULEZ fines and telling Sadiq Khan to get stuffed. Yeah, that's what people thought Jeremy Corbyn was. But it's Piers. Otherwise, this is the reason Piers isn't MP. Jeremy just gets walked on in. And also, let's look at Julian Assange. Where do you guys stand on Julian Assange?
I don't know loads about Julian Assange. From what I know, it's terrible what's happened to him. I don't know a great deal about him as a person as such, but it's obviously...
well, he's the founder of WikiLeaks, and basically he's been exposing crimes by the government and the governments all around the world. You've seen... you may have heard of the collateral murder video, which shows them... just massacring civilians and journalists. I mean, we produced a video once where I just put up, you were about to watch, civilians get murdered by the American government, and just started just with that footage of just people being murdered. And if you look, so focusing on Assange, they spied on his legal counsel. So if you spy on your opposition's legal counsel, that is enough to collapse any case by itself. The case should stop. Secondly, they're going after an extradition to United States. United States actually planned to kill him.
Yeah.
That's been shown. CIA planned to assassinate him. Okay, game over. You can't send him to a country that again by itself. Third, you've got the fact that he wasn't in the US when he when he was exposing this information. So again, he's completely out of their jurisdiction. You know, someone in outer Mongolia cannot turn around and say, "Well, the thing is, Dan." You happened to say something about transvestites that upset people in England, so we want you to be deported here to Outer Mongolia so we can lock you up for the rest of your life. It's like, how can you break their law when you're not in their jurisdiction?
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're firing something over the border, but he's not. He's not actually crossed their border.
Yeah.
And there's more. There's more to it. But I don't know. Maybe you guys should do a Julian Assange song or come down to one of the.
Yeah.
That'd actually be really cool.
Yeah. No.
That'd be a good idea.
Be up for that.
Yeah, just watch out for the Labour MPs. There are a few of them who've now started jumping on the calls.
Oh.
That's the only time I ever meet Jeremy because he never comes out to anything else that's good. He only turns up for Assange, and it's I know he may have said a few things when he was Labour leader, but it could have been the main platform.
It's a nice, safe protest. I think nobody calls you like far right for protesting that one. So I think some of the lefty politicians feel safe to get on board with that one.
Yeah, there is a very sort of trad left crowd, but they've been completely left behind. A lot of them have been really left behind. So now it's weird because they look like centrists, and they're not. They are left. They are left wing. It's just that the left is so extreme now that they look like they're centrists. And I end up getting along with loads of them. Like I was an activist for a bit for Assange, so I've been on the front of the Socialist Workers paper. Like, which I find absolutely ridiculous. Being as I was in the Tory party before, where I left them and said none of this. But it's weird. It's funny. It makes strange bedfellows.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm quite left wing, really. Apart from like wanting a dictatorship.
Apart from that one.
Well, I mean, that does sound kind of left wing to me. I mean, you got Stalin?
Yeah.
You've got the Austrian painter.
Well, Hitler, National Socialist.
You got Mussolini, which is Italian socialism, fascism.
Yeah.
Are you all right there?
Yeah, I'm not buying it that you would want a dictatorship.
I didn't say I would want a dictatorship.
Oh, sorry. What did you say?
I was saying I would
like a king.
possibly
Like an actual king.
rather that over the current system.
Where one person is responsible. So if they up, you can just kill them.
Yeah, what about like King Arthur?
What about King Arthur?
Should
we
we
have
King
Arthur?
Arthur.
These days they'd say
Arthur.
it's a dictatorship.
Yeah.
But let's just call it a King
Yeah.
Arthur.
King Arthur.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes
Yeah.
it okay.
Well, the traditional idea of a king is that they are there to defend their people. They're essentially a war leader. So the idea is you've got this kingdom, they have to provide justice, and secondly, they have to defend you from attack.
Yeah.
And right now, we've got the exact opposite of that with, with Charles Windsor. But to be fair, we have a 50% success ratio in executing King's name Charles. So,
Interesting.
I mean, does that make you a little bit hopeful?
Sorry?
I mean, 50-50 so far.
50-50.
Yeah, Charles the First, right? Charles the Second, he had to run away, hide. Was it him? I think it was him who had to run away, hide up a tree. Or it might have been his brother. But he came back with his tail between his legs. And we read him the Riot Act, and we said, okay, we'll have a king again, but you've got to behave. So maybe this one. Maybe it sort of skips a Charles, you have bad Charles, good Charles, bad Charles, good Charles.
Like Star Trek films.
Do you think he'll get the job?
It wouldn't surprise me.
I don't know. I don't want to know.
Well, everyone pretends the monarchy has zero power, but they have an insane amount of power. Firstly, they can command the armed forces. Secondly, they can veto anything. Yeah. Literally anything that comes from Parliament, they can just go no. Yeah. Because the powers of the president in the United States are completely predicated on the idea of a king. So they didn't want a king, but the powers of the president, they can issue pardons, right? They can issue passports to let people in the country, and they've got the veto power. These are the exact same powers that the king had. And when they set up, they basically, you have the House of Representatives, like the House of Commons. The Senate, they're meant to be older. There's an age requirement of, I believe it's either 30 or 35, which is meant to replicate the House of Lords. And you have the president, which is just a king in all but name, except they elect him every 4 years. So I don't. They could have vetoed all of this crap. I've got to say, all of the people who call themselves monarchists, but they support the Windsors. You don't really believe in a monarchy, do you? Like, the point of a monarch is they're meant to stand up for their people. Yeah. And sort of beauty of it, in a way, is that they don't have any political interest necessarily. Then they don't need to gain loads of wealth. They've already got it. They don't need to gain new palaces. They've got plenty of palaces. They've got all of this adulation. So it's weird, but it's almost like you've selected a random person. I don't want an absolute monarch, but I do like the idea of not everything being left up to politicians. So I think traditionally we had the best fusion of that in this country. But because the Americans, they worship their president. I find that weird.
Imagine worshipping Joe Biden.
Yeah. But they feel a loyalty to Joe Biden. They go, but he is our president. And I do not feel that with Rishi Sunak, And I don't understand. It's not got the same office. No. Rishi Sunak is just the, chief minister to the crown. Yeah. And even the crown itself, whose head it sits on, well, they can be replaced. It's the crown itself that is the sort of covenant between the people. I want to talk a little bit about the Blockheads, what it's been like performing with them.
It was like a dream come true, playing, supporting them before Christmas. Not only because it was Blockheads, which was just amazing, but being at Colchester Arts Centre was like just amazing. Yeah. Loved it. Loved being there.
Blockheads were amazing.
And they were so good. Yeah. So good.
Such a good gig.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see them again.
Yeah.
And were they an inspiration for you guys when you were younger at all?
No. I'd only, not recently, but only in sort of more recent years, sort of really got into them. But
I'm sure you knew a few of their hits and really enjoyed the music.
Yeah, but I'd never seen them live or anything. But yeah, so that was a real treat, getting to see them then. Really cool.
Do you think the music industry can be saved?
I don't think the industry as it is can be saved. I think
it's gone and rotten.
It's as Winter said, really, which is why we're doing our own thing now. We're not
needs a revival.
Slowly building your dictatorship.
Slowly building, yes, indeed.
Of freedom.
I think music speaks to people, and I think it's one of the best ways. If I were musical, I would be doing it. So I just talk to people in front of cameras or behind camera. Usually I get to hide away. But that's my way of fighting back, by just speaking to people and allowing people to express their views, because otherwise everyone's silenced. I mean, what's your opinion on the Great Replacement? Because obviously we're seeing a lot of mass migration. So, well, what is your opinion?
Well, it seems like there's a deliberate attempt to destabilise our society, and I mean, where we live, it's not too bad, but we've got friends and relatives that live in other places in the country that have like had to move out. I mean, they were being spat at in the street and that sort of thing.
For their skin colour? Or for being English?
For being English, yeah. And I think it's not so much of a racial thing. It's more of a bringing completely different cultures together who have polar opposite values. I think it's just a recipe for disaster.
And it affects art as well, doesn't it? Because if you look at house prices and the cost of studio space, etc., artists make, and musicians and creative people, you guys make sod all until the point at which you hit it big, and then you have the millions pouring in, and you can have all the swivel chairs that you want, right? Just dozens of them to swivel on one after another. Sorry, we were talking about it before. But until that point, you need to have low overheads. Where we are, people can barely afford their rent, because it used to be, 10% of your income. Now it's up to, 50% of a lot of people's incomes is either rent, and then they can't afford to get a mortgage. So if people want to be musical, they can't do it. And it's essentially taking music and art and creativeness, and it's just creativity, and putting it in the hands of, the sort of champagne socialist poshos. Would you say?
Yeah, no.
I mean, it's a very much do-it-yourself line of work. If you're a musician, you have got to do everything yourself. And some people, I think laziness is one of the biggest letdowns in society. And a lot of people, even if they're really talented and really gifted, if they're lazy, they're not going to do anything with it.
Well, there's more to it, I think, than laziness. I think it's
laziness,
pressure, it's fear, it's low self-esteem.
That's all laziness depression. In a way, though, isn't it?
Is it?
Isn't it laziness of your mind? Like, if you have these issues and you're just content with having them, that's a lazy. That's a lazy attitude.
If you feel powerless against the oppression of, constantly being told that your creativity is worthless, useless.
Or just not being able to turn a profit on it because you have to pay so much in rent, because the studio space is so expensive, because you're spending so much on heating your house and trying to support your family if they're in tough times. People can't afford to, just get a little room cheap, 40 quid a week, something like that. Okay, I'm gonna go out, work a couple of days, earn some money, play guitar the rest of the time, get really good, and then I can make my music. Oh, we can set up a studio here. Oh, we can build it here. Well, it costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of money to have studio space. And if you're barely making ends meet, it's taking that creativity out of the hands of the working class. Which I find horrific.
I don't know. I think there is an opposing argument to that, where actually hard times tend to create new artistic and musical movements because of the pressure, because everyone's down, and all the creativity comes up to counteract that oppression, because it's like an energy transfer. And all of a sudden, this cluster of people are like, I can't take it anymore! Create a whole new art form to express themselves, to share it with people. But who knows? Because of this is a high-tech age, everything's digital, everything's online. Who knows what's going to happen? Can it happen again? Can there be a musical and artistic revolution now?
Well, you guys can start it. Right. So I want to thank you guys for coming. So we've got Winter, we've got Whom by Fire, right? Can you explain where to find you?
So you can get through to Eliza and I It's wrongthinkrecords@hotmail.com.
Yes.
Yes. We are taking music submissions.
At hotmail.com.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you boomed it there. Sorry, I haven't heard someone give me a Hotmail unless it's, Snazzy Cat 83, right? And they've had it since the 90s or something.
Do you know his email? Oh no, we won't tell you. We'll tell you afterwards, but it's so close to that. It's really funny.
It's
actually
close to
really
that.
close.
Our first,
Showing
we've
our
obviously put out our own record. So if you want to support us as a band, please buy that. If you can
Link below. Plastic Head.
Winter is also going to be putting out an EP or an album in the near future on Wrong Think Records. But I think our first, it'll be our third release, I suppose. We're going to put a compilation out of Wrong Think artists, and we can't say like all of the details about that, but the title of the album is going to be called Nuremberg 2. So
oh yes, please.
Yeah. So
are you gonna have Electric Boogaloo on there?
Well, there'll be more details to follow.
Okay, well, people know where to find you. We'll have some links below. I've got to say, I love that t-shirt. Is it in shot? Beautiful.
Oh.
Right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, guys. And
thank you
for watching. And we will catch you next week. Thanks for watching. Please give us a like, a share, a subscribe, hit the notification button if you would like to help. We've got a Patreon and a Subscribe Star. So please head on over there and pledge us some support if you want to keep this journalism going. We've got a professional studio here and we could do with your support to keep these great conversations coming.